how do I get myself to do the things that I know I should do? We get some variation of this question all the time. We know what we should do. We have all the information. Why don't we do it?
Yeah. I mean, this is the question that drove the writing of this book, as well as my research for the past decade and a half here, is all about this question. This is a fascinating question. In fact, Plato asked this question, the Greek philosopher 2,500 years ago. He called it akrasia, the tendency to do things against our better interest. It is such a good question. Why is it that despite knowing what to do, we don't frickin' do it? And today, you can't argue you don't know what to do. Maybe, our grandparents could say, well, I don't know how to lose weight because I don't have access to that information. I don't know how to start a business. Today, right? And if you don't know, Google it. All the information is right there. The problem today is that not that we don't know what to do, it's that we don't know how to get out of our own way. We don't know how to stop getting distracted. So the answer is to use these 4 strategies in concert. Number 1, master the internal triggers. You need to have a plan in place so that when you feel bored, lonesome, indecisive, fatigued, uncertain, you know what to do with that sensation, as opposed to what most people do is escape, right? I can't deal with this discomfort. Let me scroll something or click something or smoke something, as opposed to, wait a minute, let me deal with this discomfort. Because what high performers do, what we found in studies, is that high performers, they feel the same way the rest of us do. They also get bored and lonesome or indecisive. They feel the same way, but they know what to do with that feeling. And high performers will use that discomfort. They will use those internal triggers as rocket fuel to propel them towards traction rather than trying to escape it with distraction. So that's the first and most important step. You have to have a tool ready to go to deal with that discomfort. And there's about a dozen of those different tools in my book. The second step, make time for traction. You've got to have that calendar so that okay, I'm going to work on that task without distraction. And the important thing here is when you use a to-do list, back to railing on to-do list, Mark.
No.
When you use a to-do list, it's all about checking cute little boxes, right? That becomes the metric of success. I'm going to check cute little boxes. That's what I used to do.
It's so satisfying. It's so satisfying.
I used to do that too. I'll go even deeper. I'll expose this. I used to write things in my to-do list after I had done them, just for the joy of it. How stupid is that, right? So that is the wrong metric of success. The right metric of success is not, did I check off a cute little box? Because you know what you're going to do. You're going to do the easy stuff, the urgent stuff. Rather, the right metric of success is, did I do what I said I was going to do for as long as I said I would without distraction? That's it. That's it. Not did I finish. This is really important. Not did I finish, but did I do what I said I was going to do for as long as I said I would without distraction? Mark, this is how you wrote your second book and how I finished Indistractable. We sat down together. We said, all right, we're going to write for 45 minutes and we're not going to stop until the clock rings. That's all that matters. It wasn't about finishing. It was about working without distraction, because then for the first time, you'll be able to say to yourself, okay, I've got this much to do. How much did I accomplish in this period of time when I worked without distraction? And then you can plan out how long the rest of the task will take you. As opposed to a person who just uses a to-do list, they start on a task for 5 minutes, they start working on it, let me just check email for a quick minute, I could use a cup of coffee, and Janet's at the water cooler, hey Janet, okay, what was I working on again? I totally forgot. And so they take way longer to finish a task because they have no idea how long it takes to finish. And we know that on average, people take 3 times longer to finish a task than they estimate. This is why, because they don't have this feedback loop on how long things take. You can only do that with time boxing. So that's the third step. The second step, sorry. The third step is to hack back the external triggers, where we talk about how to clear all those pings, dings, and rings. That's kind of kindergarten stuff. That doesn't take too much time, but still important. What's more important are all those stupid meetings you didn't need to go to that are nothing more than a distraction. Emails that didn't need to be sent and received. We can go through each and every one of those as well to hack back the external triggers. And then as the last line of defense, that's when we use these pacts, where we have this pre-commitment that keeps us on track. So it's really about using those 4 strategies in concert.
I do have a comment about the time versus, because as somebody who's written multiple books, I've struggled both ways with this, right? Like, you can set the task, which is like, I'm going to write 1,500 words today. And the flaw of that is that you quickly find yourself just writing a bunch of shitty words that aren't usable so that you can hit your metric and say you're done for the day. From there, I switched to what you just described, which is like, okay, I'm going to write for 3 hours today. And it doesn't, if I do 1,500 words or 500 words or 3,000 words, it doesn't matter. As long as I write for 3 hours today. The flaw of that is that I can just sit there and like kind of half-ass an hour or two of it and say I did 3 hours. And so I've struggled with this, and I'm being very genuine here. Like, I've struggled with this. I've kind of come to the conclusion that some tasks are more suited towards certain metrics than others. Like, there are some tasks that like you either pay your electric bill or you don't. Like, there's no, I'm going to time box 20 minutes to pay my electric. It's like, no, you just pay your fucking electric bill, right? Like, it's a very yes or no binary thing. Whereas there are other, say like researching something or brainstorming. Like, there's theoretically, you could research something infinitely, right? So you have to put a time limit on it. So this is less of a question and more of just like a little bit of a digging further into this topic of, I've come to the conclusion over the years that some things are more well suited towards some measurements of productivity than others. And I also believe that some like people's personalities tend towards like when I've experimented with time boxing, I just look at my calendar and I get so fucking stressed like instantly. And I feel it feels so inflexible and so rigid and like anything that goes over or under or I'm late to, like, it feels like a failure. That it's like I need a little bit more like flexibility in my life. So it's like I do I do a combo of like calendar plus to-do list, but I'm not too religious about either one of them. I kind of like they live in harmony. But anyway.
Well, no. So the good news is that you can plan for this flexibility. The problem is that a lot of people let perfect be the enemy of good. And we know that time boxing and using what's called setting an implementation intention, just a fancy way of saying planning out what you're going to do and when you're going to do it, we know it works. I mean, study after study after study have shown this. The thing is, people, very common trap, they make it overly rigid. And they think that the right mindset is to be a drill sergeant. You have to do this, and then you have to do this. And that becomes exhausting. The right mindset is not to be a drill sergeant. It's to be a scientist. What is the job of a scientist? The job of a scientist is to make a hypothesis, run an experiment, look at the results, and then run new experiments based on those results. So when you make a time box calendar, in the day, it's set. It's locked and loaded. But there's no rule that says you can't change your calendar for the next day or the next day or the day after that. So right off the bat, I know, Mark, anybody who tells me I'm going to do 3 hours of writing in my schedule, no way. I don't know anybody who can do, we've both written best-selling books. I don't know anybody who can write for 3 hours. So what you will learn, what I would definitely learn is if I try, and I've done this where I said, okay, I'm going to write for, I was never that ambitious. I said 2 hours. And then after two hours, I go, oh my God, this is not working out. This is miserable. Okay, well then tomorrow, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do a 30-minute time box, schedule a 15-minute break, and then do another 30-minute time box. And that works out much, much better for me. So that experimentation is one thing that makes it much easier to follow that schedule. The second thing is that you can actually plan time for spontaneity. Right? People say, well, what if somebody needs me? What if what if I'm not sure, what I want to do? That's fine. So for example, with my daughter, we have time every weekend. We have a big 3-hour block of time, and we call it planned spontaneity. We don't know what we're going to do together. Maybe we'll go to the park. Maybe we'll get some ice cream. I don't know what we're going to do, but I know what I will not be doing. I will not be checking social media. I will not be taking work calls because I've scheduled that time for someone I love very much. So that is a huge benefit of time boxing, is that you have scheduled out your values in advance. When it comes to spending time with people you love, in my calendar, taking care of my body, exercising. At 46, I'm in the best shape of my life, not because I have good genes or because I'm particularly athletic, but because I do what I say I'm going to do. So the part of the problem is that people get so scared about scheduling their day, they don't even try it. As opposed to, the idea is you're constantly asking yourself week after week, how do I make my schedule easier to follow? If something was too hard to do, well, then pare it down for the next day or make adjustments, move it around. But the idea is that if you don't plan that time, you look back and say, what the heck was I doing, right? I was doing all this other junk as opposed to the stuff that's really important to me and my values.
Yeah, I think the commonality here, I've always said that productivity is personal. And I think what I mean by that is all these things that we're talking about, they're tools, right? And every tool is like the optimal use of time boxing for you is going to be different than it is for me. And it's going to be different than it is for Drew. And same thing, any lists that we make or any email organization, inbox organization that we do, like everything, the optimal point is always going to look different for everybody. And so I think there's a certain amount of flexibility that has to be brought to whatever tool you choose to use. And I think that gets lost a lot. Like whenever I see productivity advice online, it's just like it gets lost. People get very religious about it.
Or a particular tool. Oh, you have to use this software and only this software. That's ridiculous. There is no magic tool, right? It is about iterating and adapting.
Everybody's different. And to your point, your original point is like everybody's internal triggers are different, right? Your productivity system and whatever tools you use and the ways you use them should be catered towards your personality, your particular internal emotional triggers, your weak points and strong points, etc.
The original question was, how do I get myself to do the things that I know I should do? What if we change that slightly? Would you change your answer if it were, how do I get myself to feel like doing the things I should do? Isn't that the real question? So, we have all these strategies and these tools and all of this. The real question is, why do I not feel like doing the things I know I should do, right? Would you change your answer, or is this also the same recipe?
Hey everybody, thanks for watching. This was a clip from the Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck podcast. We release podcasts weekly on YouTube and everywhere where you can get podcasts. So be sure to subscribe, follow us on Apple, Spotify, wherever you like listening to stuff, because we're going to have a lot more stuff to listen to. Check it out.